Um, I want to play, before you go, can you do one piece of sound with us?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I want to play this clip from the Real News about what Spain is doing with its health service. In the two-part conversation that you and I did for patrons, one of the things you talked about for opportunity was using our media, using this great, incredible capacity we have to share and diffuse information to, in real time, talk about, and this is on that nation state continuum. Again, I'll keep working with global integration and solidarity, nation state empowerment and delivery, and local community and resilience. Those are the three lines. And one of the ways in which we fight for this state that is healthy and responsive and represents the best of those 20th century breakthroughs, which we all want across the globe, is obviously on this advocacy of social democracy. And Spain, which does right now, it has, we've talked about this. You can go in depth, the previous conversation we did with our good friend Nando Vila on the nature of Spain's current center-left government. It's not radical, but it is genuinely center-left. And this is actually where I actually do think like a case for, smart electoralism is here too, because this, I think actually now they are in coalition with Podemos, but again, center-left government that certainly by European standards is not radical at all. By our standards, they're obviously very strongly social democratic. Let's play a little bit of Greg Wilpert on the Real News Network to see some of what they are doing in Spain in response to Corona. Of course, the United States, a lot of human beings are going to die prematurely because we have private health insurance.
That is adopting a decidedly state-centered approach is Spain. Currently, Spain has the second most number of infections in Europe and the second most number of deaths in the world. Last week, the center-left government of Spain announced that all private hospitals and private healthcare companies will be managed by the government until the crisis is over. Here's how a Spanish nurse described the increasingly dramatic situation in Spain's hospitals.
There are no waterproof gowns. The colleagues protect themselves with garbage bags and trying to get the protection that the hospital does not give them. Waiting rooms have been set up to treat patients without oxygen, neither respirators, and the situation is in chaos.
And here is how Deutsche Welle.
All right, so just to be really clear here, and again, because what's absorbed in this is the old, the bullshit like, oh, well, national healthcare wouldn't solve this line. Mm-hmm. Well, Spain has had a huge amount of austerity. And when we look, going back to the beginning commentary, when we talk about the enormous opportunity that China is taking advantage of, as anyone would and they should in this moment, is that hundreds of times the European community has advocated cuts and austerity to national health programs. So not only is there no difference between advocating and seeing that the Spanish government doing this is both necessary and important and something we should compare to positively in real time, but also that the problems that nurse is outlining there is a product of global austerity, global neoliberalism, which most ruthlessly hits the United States, but certainly has hit a bunch of body blows to the Europeans. Mm-hmm. Guys, just jump in any way. I love just going off of Joshua. I just want to really highlight those real-time comparisons.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was sort of what I was trying to hit in the gem this week too, is that we're in a crisis moment where the structure of the economy, the structure of how we dealt with healthcare, the structure of how we were distributing resources really does matter in our abilities to be able to respond to the crisis. You see that, for example, in China, while they had the initial kind of cover up and play there, when they decided to take the virus seriously, and they were able to mobilize dramatically. South Korea, similar situation. And, I think we're seeing this in the UK, where the devastation that's been put forward, that austerity has dealt in that society, is really making them much closer to the United States, for example, in their inability to be able to deal with a pandemic on this level. So, it does matter actually to hold the ground on what rights and systems that we have in place. If you're a Spanish citizen, for example, you want to push that system further. You want to push that system more into the socialist direction. But it also isn't something that you want to give away what ground you already have won. If that's the decision in the short term, because it really does matter in moments of crisis if you have that framework in place.
Joshua?
I mean, where it sends my brain is, and there's nuance to the statement I'm about to make, but what's good for us in crisis is often good for us in moments of calm too. And because all the crisis does is crystallize the dynamics that are at play. And that in moments of relative calm, all that really means is that it pushes the crisis to the peripheries and that the people in the center don't see it. And so if nationalizing hospitals is good in crisis, that might be an indicator that it's good in general. And I think that the more that we can learn, that's why I'm a student of crisis. That's why the Wildfire Project is a student of collapse, is that all it is a concentrated version of how things normally are. And if you know how to be resilient in crisis, then you know how to be resilient as a society overall. And of course, there's exceptions to that. Of course, there's particular circumstances where, or certain kinds of crises where that I'm not saying that we should social distance in general just because we're social distancing in this crisis. What I'm talking about is economics and I'm talking about policy. And I saw on some, I can't remember, it was some Fox News something of a right-wing politician saying, well, I don't want to pass any law just because of the crisis. I don't want us to change our society because of this crisis. And of course it's disingenuous because they're vultures and they're disaster capitalists. And that's what they do, is capitalize on crisis. But I think when we talk about how in a crisis do we adapt to meet people's needs, that's instructive for how we should structure society long-term as well. And this is an example of that.
Yeah, no, I think that that's really important. And it also does, again, remind us, I think, about having the really serious conversations about power and who has the levers, So in Hungary, we're going to use this to formally stop democracy. In Spain, we'll use this to do something as a very cautious center-left government that's very calculated that we would probably not do before, but actually there is the context inside that coalition to do the right thing now. And I think, again, this is also, this is an interesting continuum. Obviously, best case United States, Bernie Sanders is president. He would use this to push through a lot of really good things. Trump is president with a cooperation of most Democrats, awful consolidation of monopoly capitalism. I think a center-right Democratic administration, genuinely somewhere closer to Trump, but not as far, and partially because of the constituent elements fighting inside a power block. And that's something important to think about. You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.